Everybody in the video game industry has been talking about narrative consultation companies and the damage that they are doing to the industry in totality, but now Forspoken consultant Black Girl Gamers are appearing to not only discriminate in their hiring practices, while also claiming they are now being harassed. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. Now, obviously, a lot of the talk surrounding narrative consultation companies has been aimed towards Sweet Baby Inc., but Black Girl Gamers have been doing damage to the industry for quite a long time now, and That Park Place article highlights it. They were the consultancy group who worked on Forspoken, one of the biggest flops of 2023, but it says a video game consultant organization, Black Girl Gamers, the consultant on Square Enix's disastrous Forspoken game, appears to be discriminating in their hiring practices while simultaneously claiming they are being harassed. Now, of course, this is not very surprising because a lot of these narrative consultation companies do not hire fairly. I recently had to talk about a consultant who previously worked at Sweet Baby Inc. and how on their indie project they refused to hire white people because white people made them feel uncomfortable. So this, of course, is not a shocking situation, but definitely one that should be called out. It says back on February 19th, the organization appeared to post a job opportunity on X, limiting the applicants based on race and gender. The organization wrote, looking for Black women content creators that make Dungeons and Dragons content for potential brand work, hit us up, which is classic that they want to discriminate in their hiring practices for a Dungeons and Dragons based project, since Wizards of the Coast is one of the wokest companies I've ever seen. But ironically, a little less than a month later, the organization claimed it was being harassed while not providing any evidence. Now, of course, this is very normal. There are plenty of organizations and, of course, the employees of these narrative consultation companies who claim that they are being attacked, that they are being harassed while providing no evidence. I'm not sitting here saying they need to show us 500 screenshots of different awful messages that have been sent their way, but when you can't find any evidence and they are making all of these bold claims while providing none, it is very hard to believe them and to ultimately support or back them. It's posted on X. They said the amount of harassment we've had recently due to this Gamergate 2 is not surprising. Gamers that thought the industry revolved around them and their comforts are now realizing it doesn't. We've had emails, comments, and threats, but you know what? We're not going anywhere. So, of course, they're bringing Gamergate 2 into this. And yes, I'm sure that over the past few weeks, they have received a lot of criticism because of Gamergate 2 and people calling out consultation companies, but criticism does not equal harassment, right? That you can't go on social media and post your opinion, and then when somebody says, I don't like the work you do, call it harassment. That's just not what harassment is to normal people, but of course to these individuals, they will call anything harassment if they believe it will get them attention. And they say gamers that thought the industry revolved around them, the industry does revolve around gamers, because without gamers, you would not have a job. Without gamers, the industry would not be the size it is today. You are making products that gamers will purchase. Of course, we know that a lot of the journalists that are in the industry and the developers, clearly judging by, consultation people like this, they don't actually care about games, but gamers obviously care about games and consider themselves gamers, and that's not like a bad word. They try to make gamers like some bad insult when of course it's not. But interestingly, in a post shortly after that one, the organization implied that telling it you're not being harassed is harassment. It's not harassment to say that your work sucks, that your company shouldn't exist, that your job is useless. Like, those are not comments that should warrant, the label of harassment. And of course, groups like this, Black Girl Gamers, will do anything they can to have their critics silenced. We saw it with Sweet Baby Ink Detected and Chris Kindred and Felix Kramer trying to get Cabrutus Rambo the list and also his Steam account banned from the platform and his X account banned simply because they didn't like the list of games that they worked on getting so much attention. But of course, as noted above, the organization consulted with Square Enix on one of their worst flops ever, Forspoken. I had to talk a lot about Forspoken when it initially came out because the teasers and trailers were getting absolutely ratioed. People were not happy with this game when it launched, and of course, hilariously enough, it ended up being such a massive failure that Luminous Studios had to shut down, and a lot of the developers who worked at Luminous were rolled back into Square Enix, but still, a whole entire development company after their first project had to be shut down because of this gigantic failure. I mean, seeing groups like Black Girl Gamers come out and say that you're the problem in the industry and that gamers are toxic and awful, do these groups not realize that they're getting obliterated? They are literally in denial over the fact that their entire business model is being wrecked, so they're double, tripling, and quadrupling down on attacking gamers, and it's clearly not working out for them. And the company is actually run by an individual named Jayanne Lopez, who has talked tons of times about diversity and inclusion in the industry and about how they want to change the industry. But in an interview, she admitted how she would alter games while also expressing how she's annoyed at white characters. She asked, were there any video games that made you wish that their character was a woman of color or a black woman? They responded with, I would flip the whole premise of a number of games, especially the ones that go into countries and get their relics. I would flip that on their head. That's always been a dream of mine in general, but to be honest, I'm not averse to having white characters. I'm just very annoyed with how prevalent they are. Now, there is more to a character, okay, than their skin color. What is this narcissistic attitude that you have to see yourself in everything in order to relate to it, especially something that isn't even based on a culture that the people you're saying aren't being represented in is even based on? If I'm playing a game or watching a movie and it's based on African culture and mythology, I'm going to expect to see mostly black characters. If I see something that's based on Polish mythology, I'm going to expect to see mostly white characters. And if those, are both well-written stories, I guarantee I'm not only going to enjoy both, but find things to relate to in both, even though the story based on African mythology is filled with people that don't look like me. Guess what? Newsflash, we are all one race, the human race, and that's what matters, and we can all find similarities and things to relate to no matter your skin color. This emphasis on, if they don't look like me, I can't relate, is ridiculous and narcissistic. We should be focused on character traits like courage, bravery, happiness, things like this that are ultimately good, but instead, these narrative consultation individuals and these companies are more focused on, well, your story doesn't feature black characters or enough women, so that's what we're going to change, instead of looking at the overall message and going, what can everybody take from this story? What can everybody take and learn from this character? I mean, at the end of the day, they are complaining about how diversity is not a highlight in the industry. There's not enough inclusivity while also selling the solution. It's why I do not like these narrative consultation companies and why I will never trust them. But of course, it's absolutely hilarious to see this company, Black Girl Gamers, who discriminates in their hiring practices, claiming that they're being harassed and that the industry needs to be more inclusive while they are being exclusive. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.